conflict. Some, you know, they pretend, or they are, you know, no, I'm a good Israeli, don't shoot me, you know. But then there are brothers and sisters over the border who are good Lebanese. I think the point about esoteric traditions like the Druze is they transcend the borders. They stand for as the people of peace and unity. And long may their wisdom flourish. My friend Miriam is proposing that Lebanon, Israel, and I think Syria should form a new state called Alba, and they should rename the capital New Jerusalem, and all live in peace and harmony together. I think the Druze would support that idea. You know, the wars that are going on in the Holy Land are not holy at all. They're disfiguring and defacing the tradition. So I think the Druze would say, if there was a Druze here, bring out the divine unity within all. And it's interesting, Madame Blavatsky, who founded the Theosophical Society, she went and met Druze in the 1800s, 1870s, in this part of the world, the Lebanon. She writes about it in her books. So they taught her. So they're in effect the Islamic Theosophists to some extent. Okay, so that's jolly exciting. Let's go with that. Any questions?
You said Alba as the name? For
Yeah, this is what Miriam wants for the new state to be formed by fusing Syria, Lebanon, Israel. You know, it means, well, the place of
Arabian
purity.
League Brotherhood.
Sorry?
Arabian League, Arab League Brotherhood.
Alba, yeah.
almost.
Qabalah.
Okay, yeah, that could be this, yeah, we could say that's what it means. So anyway, I'm looking at that. If anyone wants a copy of her proposed constitution, she's written the Constitution of Alba. She's a very visionary lady that lives in Scotland, of Lebanese and French origin, and, you know, has studied at Edinburgh University theology and has her finger on the pulse of all this as a Lebanese, and she's fed up with all the wars and the bombings and her Lebanese people being killed, and, you know, wants all these wars to stop. So, and but oh yeah, the other state would be Palestine. So it would be Lebanon, Israel, and Palestine would come together and make Alba. Yeah, I believe in that possibility, and I'm sure the Druze would support it. Okay, let's do a periodic 99 names of peace, shall we? Have we got? I think it's up there, one of the 99 names of peace things.
Yes.
That I wrote with Sophia.
Sir.
Okay, let's have a look. This is numbers 1 to 52, so why don't you choose now?
Okay.
Any number from 1 to 52.
57.
No,
Oh,
52 is
sorry.
cut off.
Sorry, I in my head was 99. Sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah, 22.
22, okay. Aha. Now. Oh, that's an important one. Right. So, this is this project to require, well, the first thing about the language, that the language is Avestan, which is the language of ancient Persia. And who was the prophet of ancient Persia? I'll give you a clue. It's these dark purple boxes. Is the Persian religions. Who was the main prophet of ancient Persia? Who spoke in Avestan?
What was it though?
I'm not sure anymore. Was Zoroaster somebody? Yeah.
Yeah. Zoroaster. Yeah. Number 122 box.
Hi.
So the Zoroastrian scriptures, which date back to about 1750 BC, were given in Avestan. He was from Balkh in what is now Afghanistan, and then spread over into Iran. And these are some of the oldest religious scriptures known to humanity in Avestan. And so I give in the 99 Names of Peace, number 22, the whole thing about the history of the language. The city of Balkh is situated on a plain between the Hindu Kush mountain range and the Amu Darya River, which is called the Oxus, in what is now the north of modern-day Afghanistan. And it sat at a crossroads along the Silk Roads, and it must have been amazing to live there at that time. Later it became a great centre for Buddhism and Zoroastrianism. He was a sage who believed he received, like Muhammad, kind of revelations from God, who he called in his language Ahura Mazda. And he reveals these in what's called the Gathas, which are written in Avestan. These are scriptures, some of the oldest in history. And basically, it's how we should strive for right thoughts, like cleansing the mind, right words, right speech, and right actions. And he explains what that means in the scriptures. This is the revelation that was given to him by the Supreme Lord of creation, who created us. We are creations of Ahura Mazda, and so is the entire planet and the entire universe. And Ahura Mazda means the Lord of Wisdom. So I've met Zoroastrian priests over the years, and I've been to their Zoroastrian temple in London. I've got good friends with Zoroastrians in my interfaith peace work. Zoroaster believed in peace as a supreme virtue, both personal and collective. He was against warfare and violence. He lived in a almost like a Stone Age culture. It was farming based. People had cattle, camels, and he believed that we should follow Asha, which is the word for truth or justice or righteousness and right working. And she was seen as a goddess, interestingly. And I have a dear friend, a Zoroastrian friend in Britain, who's created the Asha Centre in the Forest of Dean, which you can go to and do courses and things. So that's, it's an ancient tradition. And also I should mention why it's important, these Zoroastrians, is they came up with the idea of a Messiah, who they call the Sehershant. In the future, the eschatology of time, to go back to that word, because Zoroaster completed his mission but didn't fully complete it, because there was still evil, ignorance, suffering on the planet, and stupidity. And he said, there's going to come another teacher who will be the Sehershant, who will complete this work. Because the planet is under attack by dark forces, under a counter-deity called Angra Mainyu, who's trying to ruin everyone with lies. The weapon that the Angra Mainyu uses is Drudge, the lie. And we see that only in the media, we see it in the people I mentioned earlier. So what Zoroaster prophesied, is that there will come a Sehershant. He will stop all that. And we will go back to being a planet in the loving embrace of truth, and where Ahura Mazda is known and loved. That inspired the Jewish tradition, who pinched a lot of ideas from the Zoroastrians. They came much later, the Jewish tribes, and they were living and understanding, and they studied the Zoroastrian scriptures, and they took that idea of the Sehershant and said, that's one of us, that's going to be a Jewish guy, that'll be called the Messiah. But that was never implied or intended in the original Persian tradition. It could be anywhere. It could be a Chinese, it could be a Malaysian, it could be a Scot. We don't know where the Sehershant's going to be coming from. It could be anyone, right? As long as they do the work, that's the test, right? So that's a noble tradition. And in my proposal to reopen the Golden Gate in Jerusalem, I'm saying, let's everyone embrace the Sehershantic moment, instead of claiming to be this or that Sehershant or Messiah. Let's have an ecumenical approach to the Sehershantic moment, which is what Krishnamurti wanted, who I heard his last public lecture. And I created this thing called the World Messianic Avatar and Sehershant Council to get these people discussing. Why can't the Iranians, who still revere Zoroaster, even though they're Muslim, because Muhammad himself taught and worked with Persians. Salman Rushdie wrote about this, and Salman the Farsi was a Zoroastrian, who was one of the first followers of Muhammad. So I think they saw Muhammad as the Sehershant. And the Persian Muslims still would agree with that. But Muhammad wasn't arrogant. He didn't say, I've finished the job. There's still ignorance on the planet and suffering and evil. And Muhammad himself was killed with a poisonous dish before he finished his work. So I think the Scientific work still goes on. Okay, how are we going to pull it off? Let's say we're all going to do it. Let's say we're on the council, right? I come back to truth. So the project that goes with this is the Parliamentary Veracity Oath. I want all parliamentarians around the world in every chamber of governments, from China to Kurdistan to Britain to Scotland to Israel, to swear an oath to tell the truth on the floor of their parliament. And if they're found lying, they lose office. That's project number 22, and I wrote the bill for the British parliamentary system. I want British MPs to have, by law, to tell the truth. And if they lie about, official stuff, not like what colour was my tie last week stuff, but like big stuff, then they have to lose office. And I still think that's an important project, and it's very much in the Scientific lineage, if you want, and the Avestan tradition.
Would be a problem for the White House.
Well, the current White House wouldn't even know what I'm talking about, because, they haven't got a clue. I mean, their whole notion of... dear old Machiavelli's got a bad name, but when I studied political thought, he would have loved the Parliamentary Veracity Oath. He just would have said, how are we going to do it, Thomas? Let's think this through strategically. So it's a good project, I think. Yes. Let me quote from the work of Mithra, who is the god that might help with this, and that's the other box next door, Mithraism. I mentioned earlier the Temple of Mithras in London. They would have had conversations like this because they knew all about this in the Mithraic tradition. This is a hymn to Mithras, whose word is true, who is of the assembly, who has 1,000 ears, the well-shaped one, who has 10,000 eyes, the exalted one, who has wide knowledge, the helpful one, who sleeps not, the ever-wakeful. We sacrifice to Mithras, the Lord of all countries, whom Ahura Mazda created, the most glorious of the supernatural Yazats. So may there come to us for aid, both Mithra and Ahura, the two exalted ones. So that's an invocation of Ahura Mazda and Mithras, because in the Mithraic tradition they believe Mithras was carrying the energy of the Scientific truthfulness. And it influenced the formation of Freemasonry. That's the idea of Freemasonry, is to take that forward. And the founder of Freemasonry in France, Chevalier Ramsay, who was a Scottish Freemason, was called by his wife Mon cher Zoroastre. Like a pet name for her husband was my dear Zoroaster, which I think is great. Because in 18th century France they rediscovered the scriptures of the Gathers, because a chap called Anquetil Duperron, who was in the French army, went to India, where the French were at that time, talked to the Zoroastrian priests and got the scriptures off them, brought them back to Paris and translated them into French, out of Avestan. He learned the language, he was a linguist, and he only pretended to be a soldier to get free passage to India. And his life story is amazing, it should be made into a movie.
I remember that.
Make an epic. So anyway, that's the project and that's the language, number 22.
Great.
Great stuff. Any comments?
A friend of yours has a center of Asha in the forest?
In the Forest of Dean, the Asha Centre, yeah, which is on the frontiers of Wales and England.
Oh, okay.
Just near where you've been.
Yes.
Southern Wales. It's a beautiful forest region where the Wye Valley is. I know it well. Okay, yeah.
In south of Wales, huh?
Yeah, south. Okay, let's have our God card, because we want to give, and one of them is Mithras, but whether we pick him or not, we'll see. There's also the card of Ahura Mazda, there's Allah, All the gods are in here. Can't say I didn't include them all. And Yahweh, you know, plus the Celtic gods and the Hindus and Shiva. So we'll see who comes up, right? Let me hold them out.
Oh, what Thor and Odin.
Well, they're there too, yeah, the Norse gods. Yeah. Okay. Ha. Yeah.
Ace of Earth, Thor.
Really?
Yeah.
You were saying that you wondered about the Norse gods, and then you picked him.
Yep.
There we are. You got magic fingers. Right. Okay.
And Ra, the king of fire.
Oh, that's quite good. We've got 2 kings here, and I'm going to do a goddess card to
Oh, you
balance
did-
from Sophie's deck that I brought back from Brighton.
Oh, that's new to me.
Yeah,
Cool.
she had these beautiful cards. She had a set of the god cards which I gave her, but she obviously bought these to balance them because she liked the goddess too.
Hi.
So I'll choose that one in honour of Sophie.
Cool.
Oh. Okay, there we are. Excellent. Well, I'll come to her in a minute. So let's do Thor first. He's the king of Earth, right?
King of Earth.
Yeah.
Ace.
The ace of Earth. Okay.
Ace of Earth.
Yeah. Right. Well. Now. Right. To Earth. So, I've always had a fondness for Thor, ever since a child, growing up in Sussex. He's given his name to our word Thursday in English, the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons revered Thor, and I have many friends in the pagan community in Scandinavia who wear a little hammer, depicting Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and it's a symbol when you meet someone, they've got a thing round. Oh, you're a fellow pagan. And in Iceland, it's official, you can be a pagan as well as a Christian or anything else. And they've had interfaith equality since the 11th century in Iceland, when there was a conflict between the Christians and pagans, and the Althing, the kind of parliament of Iceland, voted to have both equally honoured. We know about Thor from the Norse sagas and the Eddas, which tell us about their traditions. He was a kind of like, if you think of Odin as Ahura Mazda, the god of wisdom, Thor is like Mithras. He's his chief assistant and, great helper. If there's any problems that need sorting, then Thor's going to sort them for you. He's a strong god. He was the god of handicraftsmen and builders and carpenters and practical stuff. If you need a boat building, Thor will do it. And so the handicraft, the workers of Scandinavia worshipped Thor because he's a god of getting stuff done. And if you think about, we were just discussing yesterday about their amazing boats, how they travelled all over, all the way to the Mediterranean, all the way into Russia, obviously all over the British Isles and into France. And although they have a bad reputation as Vikings, in fact they were spreading ideas, democracy. On the boats everyone had a vote. Scandinavian culture was quite egalitarian, and this influenced British democratic ideals. And Thor was a very important deity for them. So I think he's always sorting out trouble, is really what we could say of Thor. And I would like to think that he's needed now because there's a lot of trouble on the planet. You know, he's that strong masculine force that could go to battle. He was worshipped by warriors as well, but prefers not to have to. You know, I mean, the Norwegian army is ready to fight in a war, but we hope it doesn't have to. The same with the Swedes. and the Danes. They are the Scandinavian cultures where Thor was very important, as in Britain. I would like, and I've met priests of this tradition who continued with this tradition. It's not dead, it carries on. And they use the runes for their esoteric wisdom lineage. The runes are their tradition. They don't want war, they want peace, because that's what, ultimately human beings flourish with. And in my Qabalah Runes I explain the meaning of Thurasats, which is the rune of Thor, and it's the 22nd letter equivalent in the Hebrew alphabet. Sometimes it's called thorn, and it gives it's like a stave with a what looks like a thorn halfway up it, which you could, like a rose stem which has a thorn sticking out, and of course you can prick your finger on it and it causes trouble, and we all have thorns. My daughter Sophia wrote poems about you can't have the rose without the thorn. She's just had a gigantic thorn to cope with, her death, completely unexpectedly. We all face thorns in life, but the person of wisdom, the rune master, teaches us how to go from thorn up to win, which is W-Y-N, which means victory, winning. And that's when that thorn thing shifts to the top of the stave. So the rune for victory, win, is the same stave with the thorn is now at the top. So it looks like a flag of victory. And the point of the Jain tradition is what we call win-win. We all have to win. Victory doesn't involve me defeating or killing you. It's our mutually recognizing each other. So I as an X, wherever I stand on the box traditions, I as an X honour and recognise you as a Y, and you recognise in turn this box. We all mutually inter-recognise each other, and that's called collective planetary enlightenment, and that's win-win for the planet. And that's when we shift these thorns that are everywhere, this conflict, this war, that war, shift them up to the highest potential that we're all capable of, which is the win-win. And that's what Thor is working for. Anyway, the details are in the text. I think it's a great card to get. Any questions about Thor?
No question about Thor.
No, he in old Nordic belief, he's also the master of thunder and lightning. When he raised these heavens in his chariot, lightning was sparking from the nave of the chariot's wheels.
Oh, okay. That's the chariot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cue the lightning, cue the thunder, yes.
Yeah.
In that respect, she's similar to the Celtic god Taranis, who had the same function in this part of Europe, in Gaul.
Yeah.
And the words Taranis and thought go back to the common Indo-European root, the thunder god. And it's quite scary when thunder happens around here. We get huge lightning attacks and thunder. And you can see why people would revere that. The maker of thunder is the supreme god,
In Western Norway, thunder is a sound spectacle.
Yeah.
In between steep mountains and fjords, you can you see the flash and you hear the thunder, and it keeps rolling back and forth between the mountains. It sort of never dies out. It just goes on and on and on, just like the god.
Like the bowl,
Yeah.
In the fields.
Yeah.
Must be amazing. Yeah.
Hi, you were used to that?
Oh yeah.
Hi.
You grew up with that. Amazing. Yeah. Well, there we are. So let's invoke Thor for the transformation of our difficulties into win-win. I like that. Okay, what was your one?
Ra.
The King of Fire. So that's very important, because what is Earth made of? It's
Earth
made
and
of
fire.
It's made of fire. And So, and by fire, I also, by extension, we include like light and heat and all the, the magical properties of fire that our ancestors didn't really necessarily know about. Now, Egyptians are very wise people. I'm constantly in awe when I keep coming back. I'm reading the Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, which was an ancient 12-volume study of all world religions, published in 1911, edited by a Scottish professor of religious studies, and there's a huge section on death and mourning, and it's 100 pages in one of the volumes under the letter D. And I'm reading that because I'm trying to make sense of Sophia's death, and the section on Egyptian funerary beliefs and death and mourning is really interesting. They were really sophisticated, and that's why they built their great pyramids, and you can see them in this card, because Ra, the king of fire, the lord of the sun, was the sun. And so when you die, you go back to Ra ultimately. He is your sole guide. And he was the pharaoh incarnate. So the lord of Egypt, the pharaoh, was the holder of that Ra energy. I explained the word Ra in its runic sense, because I go back to the etymology of the sound, the sonic meaning of Ra. And Ra has that sense of Ra. Let's get it done, guys. It's like a car revving up. And it's the energy in the thing, which is the energy that is in light. And I've been reading Einstein today. Light is the essence of all life. It's where we all come from. And that's the energy, which is in Ra. In the runes, it's in Raido, which is the Norse letter R, which stands for movement and riding and travel and adventure. And it's that same energy of getting stuff done. So Ra is the energy to enable us to do stuff. These problems of the world seem pretty awesome, and we look at them and we get depressed and we think, God, I can't cope, this is a funny planet. But if you have Ra in your cards, you can do it. It's not impossible. There is the solution. And I gave a talk to my African colleague, George Mutalemo, and his circle of African peace studies scholars a while back about how both Islam, Christianity and Judaism all had an African root. They all go back to ancient Africa, which loves fire, which appreciates the sun. And there's a scholar of the Bible who's written, called Gary Rensburg, who wrote The Egyptian sun god Ra in the Pentateuch, which is the Hebrew Bible, 1988. And the sacred city of Ra was in Heliopolis in Egypt. And many people have said Moses was a priest of the temple of Ra there. So when Moses is seeing the fire in the burning bush, it's really Ra. Let's call a spade here that he's communing with. And when Napoleon and the French went to Egypt, they studied all this stuff. And in French Freemasonry, Egyptian motifs are very important. If you go to the Masonic Lodge in Bordeaux or Paris, you'll see images of Ra there. Because the point of Freemasonry was to integrate and learn all the wisdom from all the places. So I think Ra is a pretty awesome deity to have got. So we've got a good team here to help solve the problems of the world, with Thor and Ra working together, and light and fire. Yes. So I'm going to, people can read the full text, which gives much more detail than I've got time to do, but it's pretty awesome. Okay, now I got the goddess Freya.
Aha!
Also
They're all Nordic.
a Norse deity, and in this card she's recognised as the goddess of discernment. Freya, I've always had a fond regard for, she gives her name to Friday, which is the start of the weekend, and is an important, deity. So let's just look up what the text says here. I didn't write this one. It's much shorter than my.
I was about to say, I can
books.
tell why.
Yeah, but it's very, to the point. Freya embodies the fierce and fiercely honed spiritual skill of discerning the most life-giving choice in each moment. In Norse mythology, Freya is one of the most powerful and important deities. She's the chief of the Valkyries, the demi-goddesses who choose who will live and who will die during every battle and every war. After being Valkyries, the demi-goddesses become Norns, the great goddesses who weave the fates and histories of people and nations. Freya rides into battle wearing a magical cloak of falcon feathers and takes half of those who are fighting. For her Valkyries, she models how to choose. Then, she rules over her heavenly afterlife called Sesrumnir. She receives half of all those who die in battle, and the other half go to Valhalla, where the god Odin presides. She wears a legendary necklace or torque named Brisingamen, with a powerful jewel that makes her irresistible. It's said to be gleaming and golden, and it compels people to her when she calls. So, I'm very frustrated at this text. I think it's really short, and this is why I've decided I will be writing I've written the Tarot of the Gods. I will be writing a 2-volume Tarot of the Goddesses.
Oh, you will?
Yeah, in turn, eventually. I haven't got round to it yet, I've been busy. And if any goddess wants to come and help me work on it, you're welcome to come and help. Because I think a woman should also help write it. That's why I haven't done it yet. But this is a stand-in for the moment by dear Megan Watterson. She associates Freya with discernment, arriving from the Greek diakrisis. It refers to a spiritual power that allows you to distinguish between the spirits that will cause harm and the spirits that will assist you.